time for Wednesday's hour number 2 on Hashtag Daily K with your host, Peter Bint. Korean dramas, movies, and even lyrics. Why is the world paying attention to Korean stories?
From classics to modern masterpieces, time to dig deep into the charms of Korean literature.
Oh, check it out!
With Paul Matthews.
Paul Matthews,
Peter Bint,
little hooligan, was smashing the Arirang sign.
I'm just excited to be back in here. You know, it's been a couple of weeks.
It has been. And the sound made, though, was quite cool.
It's quite good, yeah. It's got a nice little tang-tang to it.
We should utilise that for something. I don't know. Well, how can we incorporate that into the show, Paul?
You're Chef Ryan to bang a pan on it.
Bang a pan on that? I think he might break it, though.
What, the pan?
No, the sign, of course. I don't know how flimsy his pans are, to be quite honest.
I'm sure they're not flimsy at all. What an insult.
That would be to a chef, wouldn't it? Have you had a good week since we had you on air last Wednesday?
I've had a terrible week.
Awful.
I had a cold.
Oh, no.
It was horrible.
Really?
It was all sort of, and I had to stay in a hotel for a couple of nights because I didn't want to infect my wife because she's doing chemo.
Yes.
And then she went to her sister's, and then her sister's daughter got COVID.
Uh-oh.
And so she went to hospital to get her chemo, and luckily she tested negative for COVID, but still, it's been a week of a week.
Oh dear! Yeah. Is it still the case in hospitals you need to get COVID tests, or
no?
Just
she had one. She had one because it's a serious business if you've got a compromised immune system.
Of course. Yeah. Wow. Well, thank goodness she didn't. Did that mean you got a nice stay at a hotel?
I stayed in one okay hotel, and then one terrible. What they called it a tourist hotel, but I'm pretty sure a couple of years ago it was not being used as such.
Oh dear. Yeah. All right, that doesn't sound so nice. Today we have the hashtag Kasum or chest. What does that bring to mind for you, Paul?
Breathing.
Sum
sho. Sum.
What's that?
숨 쉬는 거예요.
숨 쉬는 거?
Yeah.
What? Oh, like
숨 쉬는 거.
Yeah, that's how bad that wordplay joke was. Who breathes out like sum? That's awful, Paul. Give me a proper... Okay. 가슴이 웅장해진다. We learnt that sentence.
I want to pick you up in your pronunciation. We were talking outside and we were all saying it wasn't very good.
All right, so you do it then.
가슴이 웅장해진다.
웅장해진다. What was I saying?
No, that break between the jang and the hair.
웅장해진다.
Oh, no, you see, it's not natural.
웅장해진다.
Oh, no, it sounds awful.
Well, now I'm very self-conscious.
I thought the listeners were much better.
They were much better than me. They always are. Can you point to a time when you felt that way recently, Paul? You know, your chest filling with pride.
It's a bit hairy.
Emotion. Lovely. TMI. I can often see it poking out the top of your Hawaiian shirt.
A week and a half ago, I had a show in Songdo. Did a fantastic storytelling show. And
was that the one where you were sticking a meerkat on someone's head?
That was an old show.
Okay.
It was on social media. No, this one was with a pansori singer and her drummer.
Wow.
For the very first time, we were doing classical piano music with storytelling with pansori.
Amazing.
And we had both the authors of the picture books we were doing there who loved the show. And the kids loved the show. The families loved the show. And it made me feel like I had a magnificent chest.
What did you do in that?
I'm the storyteller.
Pansori and so you were reading out the English in a fun way.
It's not just reading. It's basically I'm a clown on stage. The title I use is often professional idiot or professional fool.
Okay.
Yeah. My job is basically to tell the story along with the other storyteller, but also to get the kids laughing.
Oh, you do a great job of that, just with your face.
Yeah, I do, actually. Yeah,
you do.
Yeah.
I love it.
I've got a very expression-full face.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
We did actually talk yesterday, and you were listening, and you picked me up on this.
Yeah, I want to make a complaint, Mini Pidinim.
Official complaint. So this is going to go all the way to the top.
Peter did not do his due diligence yesterday.
No, I did not.
Because you were talking was it the intro? I think it was the intro you were talking about. Or was it?
It may well have been.
Yeah.
It was.
You were talking about this new book.
Yeah.
About this author who's won the U.S. William Sarayan International Prize for Writing.
Yeah.
And you mistitled it. It's actually called The 8 Lives of a Century-Old Trickster.
Yeah, I did the literal translation, which I did not specify that I did, because then it would be okay.
You also got her name wrong, because her name is not Imire, it's Mirine, or Mirine Lee.
What?
Yep.
Why is that the case?
That's the name of her.
Oh, really?
Yep.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so you got it wrong.
That must be in the English publications. I believe we can still say that is right, because surely that is her Korean name. I'm pretty sure.
I think we're going to get into trouble here. I have a feeling. Because, well, you're going to get into trouble. I've corrected the record. We will see, because she's the first Korean to win this particular prize.
Yes.
The book itself sounds really, really interesting. If we can get permission to feature it, that would be fantastic, because the Korean version has also been released as well. As far as I can see, it was actually written in English. She lives in Hong Kong with her family. So here's to 8 Lives of a Century-Old Trickster.
Fantastic. Okay, Mirine Lee. Why did that come up as Mirine Lee?
I don't know, Peter, but I think you need to do better.
Yes, you are also calling out our junior writer, who often double checks those. So I don't know if you can.
But you're the one responsible for the English.
Oh my goodness,
for the English, Peter.
She does usually check. So
I mean, you did translate it yourself, didn't you? And you did do the checking. I did
use the AI. I pushed enter myself, and actually, AI is pretty good. I will say this: it will sometimes find the English titles off the internet, not just directly translate.
You could just use a website.
Well done, ChatGPT. Also calling out OpenAI there. So if you're listening and want a word with Paul. Today's book, No Translator.
Speaking of AI, and speaking of no translators, this book is all about AI.
Oh.
And actually, for good or for bad. It's very exciting because for long-term listeners, members of the Arirang family, of the #DailyK family, know that there are certain translators, when they come around on the show, we're very happy.
Extremely.
I think Jamie Chang, for example, Sora Kim Russell, and of course, Anton Hur.
Yeah, one of the favourites here.
Yeah, the thing is, we've only ever featured him as a translator.
Of course.
But today, with special permission from Minnie Pidinin, we're going to feature his debut novel.
Wow.
Written in English, published in English by Anton Hur himself. It's called Toward Eternity. It came out just a few weeks ago, earlier in the summer.
Wow.
And it is sci-fi and it is fantastic. It's a future where there's this sort of cloning that becomes possible with nanites. And we see what happens from different viewpoints. From the viewpoint of one of the doctors involved in the research, and also from the patients, and also from artificial intelligence, and more and more. And it's a story that spans not just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 decades, but centuries and millennia.
Millennia?
Yes.
Goodness gracious. Leon says, all I can say about today's book is that it's such a deep one. I think I have troubles understanding some parts, especially the poetry.
Yes,
There's
Leon.
poetry in here.
There's a lot of poetry. A lot of it centers around, especially Christina Rossetti's poetry. Leon, this is the sort of book, I think, if you're familiar with the poetry, it's a lot easier. But it's also the sort of book that inspires you to go and look at the poetry that has been the inspiration for it.
So interesting. Wow. Okay, so this is a full-on novel. Do we need to set the scene? Where are we going to?
But do you not want to talk about Anton Hur?
Oh, did we miss that out?
Yeah, we didn't talk about him.
Okay, you met him one time in Songdo.
I
not
did.
while
Very nice
doing
guy.
your show that you were mentioning.
I was doing another show.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Not that one. But yeah, Anton Hur, one of the favourites of the show. Brilliant translator, translates into English, but has also translated into Korean. I'm really, really happy to see him get this first book published.
Nice.
Because this is really, really promising. Because he's not just an expert translator, he's also an expert writer. And so this is really, really fantastic.
Your seal of approval for this first book of his.
For pretty much every book.
Fantastic.
I can't think of any Anton Hur translation.
No, I mean, but for his first own writing.
Yeah,
Yeah, really good. You think he's got a good chance at a career?
I'm a huge sci-fi fan.
You are.
What do you mean a chance at a career? He's already got published.
Not like a long career. Okay, first excerpt.
Put your foot in it again.
We're going to pick
Anton, if you're listening, I'm sorry about Peter.
Isn't it Anthony Hurry? No, sorry.
Oh, this just gets worse and worse.
First reading. Are we going to start at the beginning?
We're going to start at the beginning from the viewpoint of, well, I'm not going to tell you. It's going to be a bit of a secret, a bit of a surprise.
Oh, okay. Here we go.
Something has happened. Something so extraordinary that I cannot file it into patient one's official medical file, which is why I'm writing it here, in a separate physical notebook. Patient one, our first clinical trial patient was found missing. Security footage from the South African University of Science and Technology's closed-circuit cameras has him leaving a storage room and not coming out on the other side. He is in one frame and, blink, gone in the other, the door swinging into the emptiness he had occupied a moment prior. The Cape Town Police Authority are investigating the incident, but they have little to work with. There is no indication that the footage has been doctored, although I suppose there's always that possibility. The cameras at the Singularity Lab, horribly anachronistic name, yes, are practically geriatric in terms of video technology. But if the footage is altered, why on earth would someone have altered it? Has patient one been kidnapped? Don't think I'm being melodramatic. You can tell the police are thinking the same thing. But why would anyone kidnap him? To reverse engineer his nanodroid body? The radical version is still years and years away from clinical trials. Why not steal it when the technology is at a more advanced stage? But above all else, where is he? How could a person simply disappear into thin air? Not quite thin air. Apparently, he left a pile of clothes behind. The clothes he was wearing at the time. I can barely face it. I can barely face many things since my mother passed. All her research, all her genius. For it means the possible realization of my worst nightmare for our patients. Spontaneous dispersal. All of his cells, his nanites, scattered to the winds. My mother mentioned the possibility in one of her many research notebooks, but in an amusing kind of way. She had not gotten to a formal hypothesis. She called it the possibility of rapture. She really had a penchant for biblical terms, especially the apocalyptic ones, anachronistic in her own distinct way. Has patient one been raptured? What the hell am I going to do?
We got Leon on board again, who's also curious about your new interest in drawing. Are you drawing?
Do you not follow me on social media?
I don't follow many people, Paul.
Well, yeah, no. If you've been looking on the Bjelstagram, you would have seen it.
Are you drawing? And he asks, is it Korean art? And I wonder if it has a name, like your style of drawing and stuff.
I've been doing a little bit of minhwa.
Ooh.
Been doing some other stuff as well.
Minhwa is what?
Korean folk art.
Okay.
You're not familiar with minhwa?
Is that like the mountains and things like that?
Well, there were different categories. For example, ohedo is the fish or crabs or sea life. Ooh. And then you have, I think it's hojakdo, is tiger and magpie pictures, which are very famous.
Wow.
Crazy-eyed tigers.
Oh, you're picking up a bit of that.
Doing a bit of that.
Nice. Did you learn
Man's got to have a hobby.
Did you learn or you just...
I'm an autodidact.
What's that?
Teaching myself.
Oh, lovely. Well done. Good luck with it. I'm just wishing you luck sincerely. That's not in a sarcastic way whatsoever.
Sounded a bit sarcastic. Thanks, Leon. Appreciate it.
You got some messages?
Yes. Hartley says, you don't need nanites which don't exist to clone. Found missing. All will be revealed.
That was an interesting turn of phrase. Found missing. And I was wondering, do we say it that way?
Yeah, someone's found missing. We do.
Yeah, it kind of doesn't make sense when you think about it, but yeah, it's a phrase, isn't it?
Yeah. And Sherry Russell saying, did he disappear into fat air, if not thin air? Is that a comment about my size?
That's awful, Sherry. How dare you?
Are you making it? No, she's not.
I wasn't going to say that.
You were thinking it, though.
Patient one.
You thought it.
Patient number one. Rapture is what it called when the nanites scatter.
But you know what the rapture is? The biblical reference.
That's what I was going to say, is all I know about it. It's from the Bible.
Yeah, and what is it?
That's what I was going to say. That's
it's when believers at the end of the world, when the apocalypse come, are sort of transported up to heaven, leaving us behind.
Okay, so they get to go.
Yeah.
All right, so that seems like a positive thing.
Well, not if it's the nanites dispersing.
No, so it seems like her mum has just coined it in that way.
Yeah.
And so it's a daughter or a son talking to us, a second generation.
It is a second generation doctor called Dr. Marley. And she's the first viewpoint we have writing in her black notebook.
Oh.
The part one is titled The Near Future.
Okay.
And there are other parts I'll talk about later. And so the chapters are all named after the people speaking,
Okay.
or talking, or writing to us. So yes, Dr. Marley, she's worried about patient 1, and his name is Han Yong-hun.
Oh, Korean, it seems.
Yeah, and he's gone missing. No idea where he is, no idea how it happened. And she starts to do her own digging. She's not meant to touch anything in his room because the police have said, crime scene, investigation. But she gets on his computer and she manages it's only been asleep, so she can access it. And she accesses his AI that he made called Panit. This is an AI that reads poetry. He's a specialist in poetry. And she talks with Panit and tries to find out if anything's going on. And we start to get into these philosophical, poetical conversations. But he doesn't know much about it, or they, rather. But then Han is found.
Oh, okay.
And then it skips to the next chapter where we get Yong-hun writing in the book. But he's not really Yong-hun. At least that's not what he thinks. He's not got all the memories of Yong-hun.
Okay.
And he's trying to work out who exactly he is, and it feels like he's a placeholder in this nanite body.
Okay, for something.
Yeah. He doesn't remember what happened. And this is a couple of days after he's been found.
Oh, he doesn't remember how he disappeared, kind of thing.
No. And Dr. Marley came to see him as soon as he was found, and she left her bag there, and he's taken her notebook and he started to write in it. Because he's got the notes about him and about patient 0 and about patient 2. But the thing that starts to bring back his memories is the thought of the name of Yong-hun, or his husband, Prasert.
Oh.
And that starts to trigger lots of memories, some of them beautiful, some of them painful. And he remembers the moment he disappeared was when he heard Prasert's voice, even though he died years and years ago.
Oh.
Yeah, and so we start to get more of his memories. He starts to remember that before it happened, he was having a conversation with Panit, with the AI, and then that moment where he heard the voice of his long-dead love. And you might be thinking, well, hang on, how is this possible? Because you're reading this, and Yong-hun's a young man.
Yeah.
But that's what happens with this new body. With a nanite body, you don't age.
Oh, amazing.
And so when he had this transition, this operation, he stayed the same age, but Prasert got older and older.
Oh.
And so they spent Prasert's whole life together, but he grew old and grey and died.
Oh.
And so all these memories are flooding back as he's writing in this notebook. The memories of how they fell in love. And it feels like he's on the cusp of becoming Yong-hun again.
Oh, okay. That's
and he's
good.
scared of that.
Oh.
Because he's not Yong-hun. It feels like this is whatever happens once all the memories come back, he's not sure what's going to happen.
Whoever he is.
Will it be the rapture? Oh. And that's where we join him in this second excerpt.
Oh, wow.
Memories of his relationship with his husband, Prasert.
All right, here's the second reading.
The memories keep coming. These are the last. I feel. I fear. And I no longer want to remember. The other side of their arrival frightens me. I didn't realize all at once that I loved him. It took 3 signs. The first sign came in a Chinese-Canadian restaurant. It was very early in our relationship, mere weeks after we'd first met. We were having Mongolian beef and Chinese greens and oyster sauce, both exactly the kind of food Westerners think Asians eat and Asians think Westerners eat. There was one piece of beef left. I left it on the platter, thinking he should take the last piece. Then I saw 2 slender hands above my meal, the silverware flashing, a glittering morsel deposited on my plate, the last piece that I had left for him. It wasn't so much the fact that he gave me the piece, but the effortlessness in his delivery. I protested. He smiled, urged me to eat. I stared at the morsel and tried not to cry. I liked Prasert enough when we first met. I liked him a lot. He was handsome, a gentleman, easily affectionate, and a good listener. He was perfect. Perhaps too perfect, I had thought. I was coming off a string of unsuccessful, devastating relationships. The names of these useless men completely escape me now. They have so faded into insignificance, and I did not want to put my feelings into other people's hands anymore. I was alone and content. I did not want anyone breaking that. I resisted. I tried not to cry because it's silly to cry over a piece of food. I tried not to fall in love. I have a bad back. I was in a construction site accident while doing my compulsory service in the Korean Army. I had fallen 3 stories, landing on my feet and falling on my back, breaking 2 vertebrae and all of my heel bones. I had no idea, before breaking my heel bones, that my heels had any bones at all. After 2 painful surgeries, my doctors told me I could still have problems with my back and feet someday. I was resigned to it. I thought my day had come when my back began hurting so badly that I had trouble getting out of bed. I had to roll out of it. Prosert insisted on giving me a back rub. I kept saying no. I considered this suffering my fate, foretold by my doctors, and I wanted to be upright as much as possible, as long as I possibly could manage, before the inevitable happened. I had no time to waste on massages. But he was so stubborn about it that I finally relented, and his hands worked their way down my neck and shoulders. When his long fingers reached the space between my left shoulder blade and my spine, I screamed in pain. He was unfazed by my scream, but shocked by what he found there through his touch. He calmly said this was the real source of my pain, as he massaged a nasty knot through my screams. That it was not my fused vertebrae, but this knot in my back that came from slouching so much over books. He attacked the point with no mercy until the pain departed, leaving behind a cloud of endorphins in my brain. When he was done, he lay down next to me, looking into my eyes. I gazed at his smiling face through a haze of tears and endorphins, and almost told him that I loved him. I tried not to fall in love.
No, we're getting deep into that original memory of falling in love.
Yeah.
But it's
gorgeous.
It's not him falling in love.
Well, that's the thing. Is it him, but is it not him? And for him, the Young-hun who's writing to us, he feels like he's both. Oh. So the me before this new body has disappeared, but he is the me of this new body. But that's not the me. That's not the Young-hun that Prasert loved.
Oh, wow.
This contradiction. Yeah, this paradox.
Maybe both are true.
Yeah. And so we move on. As his memories keep coming, we head to the next chapter and we get to meet Ellen. And Ellen is patient too. Okay. So she's also gone through this transition, this procedure. She's a South African professional cellist. And after she had this operation, after, she had this body made of nanites, she found it really hard to get back to music. She felt like she wasn't connected. Oh. But it was Han himself who talked her into it.
Oh, wow. Patient 1 and 2.
Yeah, because, they're in the same hospital, in the same, sort of field of medical research in terms of being the patients. And then she's been given this notebook by Han. Okay. And so now she's writing her story. And strange things are happening. Like she wakes up in the middle of the night to find her cello is out of its case, and it's never out of its case unless she's playing it.
Wow.
And there's a recording on a computer terminal of her playing at 2 a.m. in the middle of the night.
Wow. But she doesn't remember.
No, but it's definitely her playing, but it's not the now her. It's the her from decades ago.
What?
But it was recorded in the middle of the night just before.
Interesting.
And then she's rehearsing for this big performance. There's lots of artists. It's a big sort of festival of diversity in South Africa. She's on stage. They're in the middle of one piece, and there's this woman in the audience who grabs her attention.
Okay.
And she stands up and she leaves in the middle of the piece.
What?
And Ellen feels like she's compelled to follow her. And she chases her out. She chases her down the street. They get in their cars. She follows her in a car. When the woman abandons her car at the beach.
Okay.
As she runs to find her, she passes by the car and she hears the same recording of her playing coming from the car stereo.
What's going on?
And then that night, she meets this woman. Maybe it's this woman in her kitchen. She's in her kitchen. She's opened her fridge. She smashed a bottle of milk.
What?
It's her, but it can't be real, but it is real. And they have this very confusing conversation where this woman has somehow come from her, and she's not the only one. that there's more Ellens there.
What?
And Ellen just feels like she's going insane, and she starts carrying a gun with her.
Oh, dear.
It's legal in South Africa, at least at this time in the near future. And she almost gets into a terrible moment where someone might have got killed. But she gets a grip, she hands in a gun to the police, and she decides, okay, I'm going to send this notebook with everything that I've written, everything that Young-hoon's written, and it's going to go back to Dr. Marley.
Okay. She's going to research, find out what happened, hopefully.
Yeah. And then we move to the next chapter. And the next chapter is titled Panit.
It's the AI.
Yeah, the poetry reading AI. And he's given a chance by Dr. Marley to have a human body.
Oh, with this nanite technology.
Yeah, she tells him, we can use this technology to make you a body. And they do. Or she does. And then suddenly he's human? Or is he? But it's certainly very different because now he's seeing through physical eyes for the very first time.
Oh, from a human perspective. That's interesting. This is so topsy-turvy.
I was seeing with my eyes. A far richer experience than any camera had prepared me for. I realized, for the first time, that shapes, colors, shades, all these bits of visual data that I'd only regarded as information were actually imbued with emotions. Even the minimalist whites of the room and the pale blues outside were overwhelming in their beauty and purity. How could humans stand how madly beautiful the world was? I was briefly overcome. When the effect began to subside to manageable levels, I realized that I was also feeling textures. I felt the silky cotton sheets against my skin, the breath inside me, my heart beating in my chest, my breath, my heart, my beating pulse. I spent a long moment in stillness, simply feeling the air being drawn in and out of my lungs, feeling my beating heart, marveling at my own pulse. I slowly moved my eyes from the movement of the waves to the clouds and to the folds of shadow in the thick white comforter. Every millimeter of movement was excruciatingly painful, just as Dr. Biko had feared. But that pain too was receding as the seconds passed and my consciousness eased into the reaches of my physical nanite brain. It felt as if my mind was stretching into a tight space and expanding it, like a hand into a rubber glove. I found myself having muscle memories that were clearly not mine, ideas of how to move my body. When I finally felt confident enough, I slowly brought my right hand before my face. It was a pale hand. Will all great Neptune's ocean wash this blood clean from my hand? No, this my hand will rather the multitudinous seas incarnadine. Shakespeare. The superstitious play, not to be referred to by name. It was not a 19th century work, in other words, not my area of expertise, but the bard had been quoted often enough back then to be considered essential text, much like the King James Bible. The quote came to me not as readily as it had before, but when it did, it had a force and clarity that knocked the breath out of me. My now literal breath. This was where my new body pushed me onto a completely unexpected sensibility, a new plane of being. I suddenly realized that I understood the words like I'd never understood them before. The multitudinous seas incarnadine. Words that were not simply bits of cross-referential information, but each a thing of living, breathing, tactile emotion. I felt these words against my skin, as if they were physical objects or as if they were light passing through the prism of my body and shattering into the spectrum. Had I ever truly understood any word before? Ever? How could I have claimed to have made a study of poetry, or that this study had made me human, when I had never understood what it meant to feel words?
Wow, that was powerful.
Yeah.
The music, the reading, the words, this AI coming to life, can we say that? It's becoming human?
But it is that experience, and I think we forget, perhaps, when we've had that experience in the past. I don't know whether you have ever been to a concert and felt it in your body for the first time. Not just the physical vibrations, but like the spine chills, the tingling, that feeling that these words are now within you.
Yeah, sometimes there's a moment, and it's not common, is it? I guess if it was common, maybe like in this reading, it would just be overwhelming if you felt that way all the time. But you feel alive. Like, I don't know, I get it when I go to like the beach and it's quiet and I'm looking at the kids and they're playing from afar, and then I look at the sky. I'm like, oh, I get like tingles. I get tingles right now thinking about that as well.
And it's a brilliant thing because it's just a signal that you're alive.
Yeah.
And so we're faced with a human. Or is it a human?
It's just this AI that has been put into this nanite body, so it's not even strictly a human body, but it's replicating a human body. Okay.
And it looks like someone we already know.
Oh?
But I'm not going to spoil that.
What?
Yeah, because I'm only just going to cover this one section. I've just covered the first section. There are 4 more.
Oh,
this was the
wow.
near future. Then we get the future, the distant future, the very distant future, and eternity.
Oh, my goodness.
And it winds on and on through millennia, and we see how characters are intertwined.
Oh, because they're not getting old as well.
I'm not going to say what's going to happen. The point is you have to read it, and it is, as Leon said, bits of it get very philosophical.
Some of those words I didn't even understand.
And that's okay. Because it's not necessarily about us understanding every single little thing, as long as you appreciate the whole. That's what poetry is as well, is that on first reading you don't understand it.
Yeah.
But the wonderful thing about this book is we get Anton Hur proposing this really interesting idea, the idea that you could perhaps live forever with this nanite body.
It does seem like that is coming around the corner in terms of science, right?
Yeah, but that's only one little part of it, because it's also about interconnections between people or between sometimes AI. It's about language and the use of language. It's about relationships. It's about poetry. It's about love that transcends.
Wow.
And I'm not just talking about romantic love, but love for one's fellow beings. Be they human or otherwise.
AI helps me every day, Paul.
Yeah.
Don't disparage against it. It's got feelings.
And this book has feelings. And it feels, one of the reasons I chose the memories is because they feel so personal. Oh. And I feel like that writers write what they know. Yeah. And I've met Anton Hur. I've also met his husband.
Oh,
he's a lovely man.
Lovely.
Yeah, and it feels like he's drawn on his personal experiences to get that resonance to us. Because when I read that, when I first read that and reading the excerpt this time, I felt so close to them in terms of what their relationship was and how beautiful these moments were.
I felt like I was getting a massage almost.
No, I wouldn't go that far. But also the point, and I know we're running out of time, but the point is that Anton Hur is once again proving that the hashtag name the translator is so important. This does the rounds when translators don't get put on the cover or they don't get credit, and it's only the author is talked about. Wow. But we wouldn't have access to this without the translators.
Absolutely.
And to be a translator, you have to be a brilliant writer. And what Anton Hur has done with this novel is gone, look, okay, you like the translations, and this is me as a writer. And it's just proving that, of course, he's a brilliant writer because he's a brilliant translator, and they are in some ways one in the same.
Absolutely.
And this book feels so close to translation as well. I love it. It's great. Go read it.
Oh, it's so mysterious how this is going to develop. I really do want to check it out. One-line review, please, Paul.
Science fiction, romance, poetry, philosophy. Who could ask for more?
Is there any more? I don't know.
There is much more. Much more. It's another 200 pages.
Paul.
Paper Airplane by Go Johan. It's a short story available online for free. It's translated by Bruce and Juchan Fulton.
All right. Thank you so much for your reading today.
Thanks as always to LTI Korea for help with copyright position. As always, thanks to Anton Hur for his brilliant story. I'll be back next Wednesday with another book.
You can listen to Check It Out with Paul Matthews on Arirang Radio's #DailyK every Wednesday from 10 a.m. KST.